everyone, to another episode of At the Table. And today we're here with James Waslaski, our dear friend. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here, Laura. I'm looking forward to this interview.
Thank you. James integrates 30 plus years of expertise in manual therapy and elite sports therapy to enhance the education and patient outcomes for all manual therapists. He has pioneered pain-free orthopedic massage, pain management, sports injury, and sports enhancement treatments. James is also a published author and international lecturer who teaches manual therapy techniques at more than 45 seminars throughout the world on an annual basis. It is an absolute privilege to have him with us here today.
Thank you.
So James, I would love to just jump right to the beginning.
Great.
Right to the beginning. And some people may know, but some people may not know that you actually started on your journey in healthcare as a paramedic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was 16 years old and in high school still, and I wanted to help people. And so I went to be a paramedic. I think it was one of the youngest paramedics in the US at the time, and I was still in high school. Then I started teaching at colleges and universities, paramedic courses at VOTEC colleges. And after about 20 years, I took massage as a hobby, and I wanted to go to the Olympic Games. That was my dream as a massage therapist. And my fire chief wouldn't let me off for that Olympic competition, even though I was chosen to be there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I retired, and I decided to take massage and never look back, because I've had the opportunity to learn from world leaders from all over the world and integrate all kinds of manual therapy.
Awesome. So I mean, anyone who's read your bio, obviously there's some things that really stand out. I mean, working with teams like the New York Yankees and, you know, what you just spoke to, your experience with the Olympics, and how did that shape the trajectory of your next move? Like you said, you know, at that point you retired as a paramedic, and
I think what was really important for me as an athlete, as a person that ran marathons, you know, all the major marathons, I had a lot of sports injuries. And when I met a guy named Benny Vaughn, who's a world leader in sports massage, he kind of mentored me. But then I thought, when I went to the Olympics, I noticed that the manual therapists were integrating. The chiropractor, the physical therapist, the athletic trainer, the osteopath, the physio, they all worked together, and they all collaborated and communicated. And I came back to the States, and that wasn't the case. There was like turf wars among colleagues, and they weren't sharing I said, someday we're going to integrate what everybody does for the best interest of the athlete and the patients that come in, so that we can get people off the drugs and the medications and the unnecessary surgeries. So it's been a 33-year journey of learning from world leaders in manual therapy.
That's excellent. And it's, I think so much of the beauty of the healthcare industry, or at least its evolution today, has been this integration of different disciplines working together, collaborating, pooling everyone's knowledge and resources together. And how have you now incorporated that into your seminars, into your teaching?
Well, Laura, I've got 11 different classes that I teach, and the reason they manifested is, I would say, who's the world leader in spinal biomechanics? Who's the world leader in concussion, head injury, brain trauma? Who's the world leader in scoliosis? Instead of going to a university where you're learning from a professor that's teaching from a textbook that's typically outdated within 2 to 3 years at the university level, I thought, I'm going to go around the world and learn from the who's who, the people in the trenches that are doing the work every single day, you know, and so many names here in Canada, like Sean Latimer with concussion, and Kerry D'Ambrosio with total body balancing, Eric Dalton, Moscow Lemon. All these people had the unique specialties. And I thought, someday, as I journey through life, I'll continue to add the visceral, lymphatic. You'll never get that at a university setting. I just had an ER doctor in my class last week, and he said, I'm now integrating what you're doing in the emergency room. So I think the idea is that we will be lifelong learners. If we respect and align with the world leaders in manual therapy, we will change the face of medicine. And I think that's starting to happen, not as quickly as I wish it would, but it was starting to happen. So I'm on a journey. I'm blessed. I get to teach retreats around the world. I get to study, and I'm always taking courses. Like I'm always taking another class and updating research and clinical studies and peer-reviewed, colleague information. But I think the blessing of our profession now, and you've seen it at the Canadian Massage Conference, where the world leaders are friends. They're supporting each other. They're aligning with each other. They're telling their people they train to branch out into all these specialties. And I don't see that in medicine. A doctor typically has 7 minutes per patient in the door, out the door. They'll never be able to evaluate. They'll never be able to do advanced orthopedic assessment. So I'm helping the broken system. We have good doctors, but the medical system is kind of broken. Mm-hmm. So my job is to help find a model that patients can go to without just getting a drug or getting a prescription, or in many cases, unnecessary surgeries.
Yeah, that's so, it's from what I've, learned from my experience with you, is how important of a mission it is, or your sense of purpose in this, and bringing this to the rest of the world, and really creating that systemic change by educating and teaching the next generation of therapists this integrated approach, to stay open-minded, to continue to learn, to be humble, as we've said in so many ways, and accept that there is always more to be learned. It's really incredible to witness, and makes me excited to see what the future of healthcare and the wellness industry will look like, because it's people like you that are on the ground level, creating that change.
And I think the important thing, and I talked to your father about this morning, is the word you said, humble. The reason I'm sitting here is because when I met your father, he was probably the most humble person I've ever met. And he's taking all these world leaders under his belt, and he has the same vision and dream. And we talked about prevention. There's so many musculoskeletal conditions and even medical conditions that we can prevent. And all these unnecessary billions of dollars we're spending in healthcare could be saved by just investing in wellness, investing in health, investing in the mind. I mean, the power of the brain. I mean, are you good enough? Can you heal? I've been through journeys like cancer where you have to be positive and upbeat. And I think what we see in this, I finally know my purpose. I finally, probably into my 60s, I thought, this is why I was put on this planet. This is what I'm supposed to do, and I will keep doing it probably into my 80s, because there's nothing like retiring and just golfing and not having a purpose in the morning. And I'm just an honor to be here, because I think your father reminded me of the way I was raised, with hardworking ethics, and your whole family seems to be like that. And I think that's part of why I keep coming back to Canada, is when I go to the Canadian Massage Conference, there's a lot of people here in Canada and across the world and across the US that are really coming from here. And their best interest is patient outcomes, patient care, helping the emotional, energetic, spiritual healing, the physical manifestation of getting that body to be healthy. And my own injuries have probably been my best journeys of learning. So.
Oh. Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. It's truly inspirational to hear. Thank you. So, we had a chance yesterday on our way over from the airport to talk a little bit about your upbringing, growing up on a farm in North Dakota, the beauty of that life, but also what you learned and how it set you up in terms of your foundations, with the strong work ethic and understanding the importance and value of hard work. So I would love for you to, talk a little bit more about that, because I think that in today's day and age, work ethic, some things come a lot easier than they used to. And I'd just love to hear you talk a bit more about that. So Laura, I
grew up in a little farm in North Dakota, a very little farm. And it was just survival. And the good thing about my father, he would shake your hand and look in your eyes, and that was his character, his reputation. And then I think growing up at 13, where you had to drive the combine and tractor and pick rocks and haul bales, you learned that, and I had and I had to mow lawns, and I had to do a paper route. And so you learn that if you want something, you work hard to get it. And I think that foundation, I think we go from our roots, we might move off on tangents, and then we come back to our roots. And I think that foundation was huge. One of the guys that really changed my life was a guy named Tony Robbins. He was a client of mine. And he just said, you can't be living in that poverty mindset, that the little farm in North Dakota guy. And yet my roots and my true success is because that's who I really am. So I think growing up, your early childhood experiences are going to carry you through adult life. And I think that's important, that men be good men and help their kids. And like I see, again, that's why I think I really admire your dad, is I see him taking care of the family and doing things. So my blessings are the fact that I worked hard to get where I'm at. Nothing came easy. And now that I'm where I'm at, I want to help as many people as I can achieve if you can achieve their dreams, the people I teach, and they can help more people, then all of a sudden we can change the world. I think that's really a good idea.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So James, why don't you tell us what sets orthopedic massage apart from other massage modalities?
Well, Laura, I originally called what I did sports massage because my first 20 years was college, Olympic, and professional athlete. That was all my clients. And that was my passion. That's where my heart was. But then I realized that when you look at muscles, bones, ligaments, nerves, and how the body moves and freely competes, I thought I need to rebrand it. So then I met a guy named Whitney Lowe who teaches orthopedic assessment, special tests, clinical reasoning, how to evaluate what your body actually needs. And then I changed it to orthopedic massage because that was the next buzzword, so to say. And then I thought, like last weekend, Laura, I was in Florida. I had 300 different chiropractors taking my training. And we rebranded 7 years ago to say integrated manual therapy. Massage is a big part of it, but now we look at the chiropractic, osteopathic, physical therapy, athletic training. We look at what everybody does. So the integrated manual therapy world is, we maybe have a concussion, a head injury, scoliosis, brain trauma. Many of these patients live their life without help that they need. So I think the branding, I had this talk with you a while on the drive, but I think my vision for 20 years has been, one, integrate what everybody does so patients can get better, truly from a healthy perspective, without pain, medications, and addiction to drugs, and so on. And my vision is someday there will be a franchise of clinics across the globe where you can go in and you can get, if you have concussion, you go into this treatment room. If you have scoliosis, you go in this treatment room. If you have total body balancing, you go in, and you've met a lot of these educators. And I thought Tony Robbins used to call it a mastermind. Everybody would look at the same patient with a different, I see this, I see this, I see this. There's no reason that the Institute of Education and the medical schools like Harvard and Yale in the US are not teaching us, but they're not. They're not teaching this. They're teaching from outdated textbooks that are not updated every other year. And then the doctors are not getting this integrated, holistic, preventative, rehabilitative approach. So my vision is to see the branding of it keeps changing, but I think the better word than orthopedic massage would be integrated manual therapy, because I'm still a lifetime learner. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to be learning more about concussions because I had a concussion a couple years ago, and I knew what it was like to live in that cloud, and I knew it was like to forget things and to easily be stressed out. So I think the help that I didn't receive. I worked in an emergency room for 10 years when I was a paramedic. So I worked with an orthopedic surgeon. I worked with the ER doctors. And now the ER doctors are taking my training to say when they come to the ER, last weekend, the doctor said, I'm an ER physician. I've taken all James training. He goes, when they come in, instead of giving them a pill and giving them a prescription and giving them crutches, I look at their musculoskeletal thing. I physically treat them in the ER, and they leave without pain, without medications, without crutches. And I think that could be worldwide. And I think that vision has always been my vision, to see all of us integrate and change the future of healthcare, change the future of education of healthcare, change it to preventative instead of corrective and rehabilitative. And I think that will happen. And that's another reason I'm here with you guys, is I see visionaries that think alike. And I think that's important that we align with those people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Could you share a success story about how your techniques or someone you've educated has helped either a client or a peer of yours in their journey?
So I think there's so many, but I think many of the success stories come from the student or the teaching assistant who the light bulb goes on and they go, wow, I'm good enough. I can do this. I can be like that. I can help more people. You know, I remember one little girl, she was born with bladder problems, internally rotated hips. They wanted to do surgery. And her grandmother brought her to a case study. And to this day, her grandmother still attends my seminars because we got her to walk normal, we got her bladder to empty, we got rid of all the medical stuff that was going on because of postural stuff. So there's so many stories where someone are told they could never walk again normal, and now they're running a marathon. I mean, but the stories aren't my stories. The stories are the people I help that help more people. You know, the stories are seeing the teaching assistant become successful and travel the world and do their thing. Mm-hmm. So for me, to see a light bulb go on in a student or another therapist or a patient who goes, wow, I've been to all these doctors and no one's been able to help me, and then they have tears in their eyes. And the story is like, I'm here to facilitate the body's innate wisdom to heal itself. I think the word, we're not going to fix you, because I think that's a little bit ego-based. I think that's a little character-based. I think the idea is if I can help your mind feel better, I can help your heart feel better, I can get your muscles, bones, ligaments, and bodies balanced, then this is my life mission. This is my purpose. So there could be a lot of success stories, but the greatest success is really making a difference in so many lives around the world that were told they would never move normal again or be without pain. And I think those stories are what drive me. There's just so many blessings of opportunities to provide health to these people. And it's globally now. People go, why do you teach 45 weekends here? It's about the purpose. It's about seeing more people help more people and finally seeing the integrated process happen amongst all the allied healthcare professionals, and finally seeing the fact that we're looking at prevention instead of waiting till you're dying of cancer or waiting till you can't walk anymore. You know, and so I think success to me is seeing the change in the world. All the titles, all the awards, they just mean you're on the right path. They're not there to design you're all that. So I think my success is what I see in the patient's eyes that come from all the thousands of people I've trained around the world. And that look in their face when there's a tear because they can live without pain, there's just so many that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be the greatest reward.
Yeah, it's really quite I've never had a job where I literally get an endorphin high every time I get to teach, or every time I get to touch a human being and watch their face light up. Every single moment. I've never had a job that I get to see that happen before.
Awesome. How do you approach education in manual therapy, and what do you hope the practitioners that participate in your courses gain from their attendance?
So I'm going to give credit to my daughter for making me a great teacher. With her autism and her dyslexia, her and I, people don't know this about me, I've never shared this anywhere, but I could not in high school take a lecture, read a book, and pass a test. So I barely passed high school. So I learned from my daughter's autism that we have to be able to cater to the way every brain thinks different. So she taught me the importance of kinesthetic, visual, auditory learning. And what's amazing is whether my audience is a chiropractic group or a physical therapy group or athletics, many of them are like my daughter and I. They cannot read a book, take a lecture, and pass a written test. So I think that my journey of life and what I want to see with therapists is, one, no matter how your brain processes information, you're good enough and smart enough to be amazing at what you do. Number two, I wish that all manual therapists would never put down their colleagues. They would never negatively say, well, what does the PT know? Or because they know a lot. They've got their PhDs. Mm-hmm. The gift of education is not to impress somebody with your knowledge. It's to watch their eyes light up when you go, oh, I showed you a picture. I evaluated you. I palpated you. Like when I studied with Eric Dalton, I had to take his class 13 times because I'm a slow learner. But when Eric would work on me, I could feel the kinesthetic processing, and I can duplicate that on anybody. So my learning transitions was that I want to cater to every manual therapist out there and tap into the way their heart and brain thinks. And they don't learn from negative constructive feedback. I remember when I was little and the teacher would go, "You're wrong," and embarrass you. Then you cower and you shut down. So I surround myself with great teaching assistants that lift people up. I make sure that I cater to a picture, a visual, and kinesthetic, and then I slow things down. Okay, we're going to learn one thing. You're going to palpate the ASIS and the PSIS. You're going to make one change. Do you get it? And as soon as you get it, you give them an accolade, like, good job, you know? And so I think as a person that barely passed high school, now teaching around the world, going back to my 50-year class reunion next month, thinking I was probably voted the who's who not likely to succeed in the world. But I learned how to figure out learning, and I learned how to figure out education, and I learned how to figure out how to educate. And I also learned that you will not learn from your colleagues if you criticize their profession. Every profession, PT, athletic training, that I cater to, has low-level people, entry-level people, and high-level people. And what I see is that I've had the blessing to meet those world leaders because of humility, because of, and I work on that. Every once in a while, your ego tends to get in your way. I think it's more of a male thing. This ego thing happens, and then you go, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that or said that. But I think the importance of education is I had to learn the hard way how to learn. But now, during COVID, my daughter took a picture of every single technique, and we edited it with PowerPoint. And people are like, wow, I'm autistic too, and now I think I can get it, and I'm good enough, and I'm smart enough. So my passion is to see learners who I used to be like, know they're good enough and smart enough, and they can help change the world.
What an incredible, incredible driver, and thank you so much for sharing that, because like these are more the stories that people need to hear. Mm-hmm. You know, when we're faced with challenges in our lives, like, you know, having enough belief in yourself, enough courage to try. Yeah. And even if you don't succeed the first time, to try again.
Exactly.
And I think it's incredible coming from, you know, that 15-year-old student that had, you know, your teachers limiting you, and you being able to push through that is such a wonderful example. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what a coincidence and an honor to have I have about 100 and some teaching assistants across the globe. And honestly, they're like my family. They're like dear to my heart and special. So the fact that you're here, Shannon, is amazing. And I know that you also have really felt close to the family here, the Cardon and the family here. So I want to introduce Shannon because we have a certificate program where you have to go through a minimum of 100 hours of training and studies, and you know, to be a preferred practitioner on our website, and especially to be a teaching assistant. It's an honor that we're here together. And I mentioned that my success really is found in the hearts of people, that all of the people that I teach touch those lives. So Shannon, if you want to say a few words.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate being here at the Cardon facility. When I first started massage school in 2002, I graduated. My love has been to get people out of pain, but I felt that what they taught in massage school, I needed more than that. And you were very reachable and approachable and close to my house, 2.5 hours away when I attended your first seminar. I remember, you know, when something life-changing happens and you remember how you feel. And that very first minute, I had tears in my eyes because what you were telling the class was what I needed I needed that, as if you could just put a gift into my hand. I wanted that. However, and I immediately thought of my dad, who had a torus supraspinatus, and I thought of all my clients and athletes and even the grandmas who just do knitting and sewing. How can we help them have a better life so they can get on the floor and play with your grandchildren? And I really appreciate learning from you. And the first words out of your mouth were the educators that you learned from. So I'm writing everything. James has what I want. How did James learn what I want, what I want to get? And the leading industries, and everybody you mentioned is on my radar. You know, and from, what a career that you've had, that you probably didn't realize that you would be touching the 70-year-old grandmother playing on the floor with her grandchildren, but that's what you did when you taught me how to do. So I appreciate
So Shannon, what I really admire about you, though, is you took the mentors of mine and went and studied with them. And I admire that you took responsibility of being successful without having to market, without having a business card, without having. So the idea, and I think a lot of it that I also see in you, Shannon, is that it's not just coming from your hands, it's coming from your heart. And I think that's important, that I see that manifestation of healing.
I've had so many clients report back that my hands are connected to my heart. Some massage therapists, when I graduated massage school, massage wasn't the boom that happened in 2005.
Yeah.
So I struggled for years. And again, wanting to take continuing education classes, but they were so far away and I barely had any money because I didn't know where the next massage was coming from. But it's just fumbling along until I met you, and then things, boom.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I noticed that we're both here. We both have this table in our homes.
We do have this
So
table.
it's quite, can you want to speak about that?
Well, in 2018, spring of 2018, you had a nerve decompression class here at the Cardin facility. And we worked on these tables. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to my beautiful, very 32-pound heavy wooden table. And the techniques that you showed me, and then to go back to my manual table, like, this hurts my body. So 2 months later, I bought the table. And I do 7 clients a day, 4 days a week, and I'm booked in advance, and my body is completely fine, and I've been a massage therapist for over 20 years. But this table has saved my career, saved my back, saved my hands, and the clients walk away thinking that it's me. I'm like, well, it's also this really nice table that makes it effortless to do a really good job.
People ask me all the time, I've been doing this for 33 years. I've never had a massage-related or manual therapy-related injury. And I think part of it is technology like this that enhances technique.
Yes.
And I think that's really a critical aspect of what people don't look at. They don't look at the investment of their wellness and the fact that this simplifies patient outcomes.
Right.
So that was one, and I've been around the globe seeing every table in the industry.
Yeah.
But here we are at the factory, and just looking at the quality of everything that goes into the design and the robotic stuff that keeps things consistent.
And how quiet it is.
How quiet. So I had an $8,000 table when I found this table, and now I have this table instead, which means for the quality of what we see and why we're here at the factory today is pretty amazing that we both believe in. And with my reputation, I don't put my name behind anything unless it's 100%.
Right.
Number one, I have to like the product, and number two, I have to like the people behind the product.
That's right.
And I think that is 2 key things that I will do before I
Yeah.
ever put my name or reputation along with something like we're sitting here behind us. Really cool.
What I like about the Cardin tables is it's quiet. My client, if I have a 85-year-old woman who is 100, well, maybe 96 pounds, I can raise a table to where it's comfortable for me and not give too much pressure. Mm-hmm. My very next client is a 250-pound linebacker. I'll drop the table to take care of my body. Mm-hmm. But again, going back to the 85-year-old woman, for me to be comfortable because I like to be comfortable when I'm working, the table needs to be this high. But I don't want an 85-year-old woman getting off of a table this high, so then I can just lower it down.
That's cool.
I attend a lot of your teachings. When you have continuing education in my area, whether it's at the Canadian Massage Conference or at the AMTA New York conferences or at the World Massage Festival, I attend your classes, and you always have new information to share. And it's wonderful for me because I'm too busy massaging people to do updated research. And when I show up to be your TA, you say, Shannon, there's something new. We're not doing it like this. We're doing it this way. And I really appreciate that you and a few other of the education facilitators that you know are just these masterminds that make the massage therapist shine with cutting edge research. So what drives you? How do you know this?
So Shannon, I count my blessings because all the people I study under, all these world leaders of manual therapy, have research based on whether it be concussion, head injury, brain trauma, scoliosis. The research is available if you look for it. So it's not being taught in medical schools yet. It's not
Right.
updated. So my blessing is people like Eric Dalton shares research with me every week. There's the Massage Therapy Foundation for research. There's all kinds of resources for research. PubMed. There's so many new authors doing books on pathology. And I think the problem that exists is many medical schools are using a textbook that's at least 3 to 5 years old. So by the time you graduate from medical school, perhaps 50% of what you learned is already outdated based on new clinical studies and research. So if you retain 30% of what you learned in 12 years of college and 50% is outdated, it's never manifesting and catching up. So what I do is I literally contact my colleagues. And as you know, I mention their names in every seminar because this is not my work. This is the work of maybe 20 people that have trained me in the last 30 years in their specialties, whether it be concussion, head injury, trauma, whether it be scoliosis. So I think their research is what I learned from. And then I come back to all my seminars and go, oh, by the way, this new technique, it's really an evolution of what we did last month, but now based on the fascial research at the World Fascial Congress or the research studies at the Pain Summit in San Diego. There's so many places, but my gift is people like Whitney Lowe, who researches orthopedic assessment, clinical reasoning, special tests, and many of my other colleagues that I mention in almost all of my seminars. And one of the reasons I want to mention this in the interview is a lot of times people think I'm name dropping, but I'm not really name dropping. I'm saying, hey, I learned spinal biomechanics from Eric Dalton, or I learned concussion work from Sean Latimer, or I learned total body balancing from Carrie D'Ambrosio, or lymphatic drainage, or whatever modality. Back in the days, you would certify in one modality. It might be neuromuscular, it might be lymphatic, it might be visceral, it might be cranial. Today, the more advanced modalities and trainings you have based on research. Now, with that being said, I am a scientist and I base all my techniques on research, but I'm an intuitive being. So Einstein, people might not know this about Einstein, he was very intuitive. He was driven by his intuition, and the sleeping patterns helped his intuition launch the scientific evidence. So being an intuitive person, meaning you're listening from your heart and your gut and your viscera, you have an instinctive thing, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this. But then the science connects. So I think the beautiful thing is what we do is based on science. It seems magical because the changes are so significant, and yet we can back it up by scientific research. But it's gathered, it's never going to stop. I mean, there's research going on today that might change what I teach next week. And I think those are critical things that we, as manual therapists, as leaders in the healthcare profession, that we keep up on that research, that we say, okay, last week I taught you this, but this week we know that the fascia doesn't actually do this. We know that if we don't change the brain, we can't change pain. If you don't base your new studies, your new techniques on research, then I know I've been to classes where people are teaching what they taught 20 years ago. It's so outdated and incorrect and obsolete, and it's still good stuff. But I think the evolution of combining the intuition with the science, with the gut instinct, with the heart is really what helps me help more people. So,
That's beautiful.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate learning from you.
Thank you.
And I think it was Christmas Day you sent an email. I'm going to be in Rochester on the first weekend of February. And you don't know how the weather's going to be. I'm going.
Yeah, that was great. It was good to see you.
The weather could be, I'll just leave 2 days earlier or whatever. Yeah.
And one thing about Shannon and my many other teaching assistants across the globe is they're like family. We keep up with what's going on in people's lives. I think it's important that we connect, and I think that big family is part of what we're seeing right here as we do this interview, is the connection with Mardig and his daughter Laura, and I think those connections are a bigger family.
Right.
And I think those connections is what's going to help change the face of manual medicine.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful profession to be in. And it's nice to not have a stagnant. It's not a one and done. Massage is never a one and done. And even from week to week, the clients, how do you feel this week? What did you do? Oh, you hung wallpaper in your house?
Yeah, exactly.
That's different than how it was. Yeah. It's great. Thank you.
So 3 things that I've probably learned in my career that I want to share with the listeners. And I think the most important, growing up without barely passing high school taught me to overcompensate with a place of ego, meaning when you're not good enough and smart enough, you have to brag about yourself and pretend you're all that. I think that's a bad place to be. I think what I'd like to leave it is be humble. The more successful you get, the more humble you should become, and the more it should come from your heart. Surround yourself by likewise and successful people that are like-minded about the future of manual medicine. And I think never talk down to anybody. The words we use can destroy people's lives, their heart and their soul. I think we should be there as your success coach. I think we should lift people up. We should make every single listener, every single student, every single practitioner feel good enough and feel smart enough and feel wise enough that they can achieve their dreams and their goals in life. And I think we should be kind in those learning transitions, meaning if somebody says, well, I'm not good enough or smart enough, you go, yeah, I just have to present it different. Yeah, yes, you can do this. Like, we have to be that success coach, whether that's your patient who said, I'll never be able to walk normally. We got this, man. We got your back. It's all good. I think speaking negatively, there's a research by Harvard and Yale Medical School. I believe, don't quote me on this, but one of the clinical studies based on pain science studies says that every thought we give energy to, negative or positive, every thought we give energy to, negative or positive, communicates to every cell in your human body. So I had the opportunity to think myself well through cancer because I knew that my brain and my cells wanted to hear that. I think through injuries that I've had, I think that I've thought, I'm going to walk normal again. I'm going to move well. So your own story can become the story that facilitates healing in that person that doesn't think they can do it, or they're not smart enough, or they're not good enough. So I would say, be humble, be wise, be kind, let everything come from your heart. Try to field out any ego moments, and if you fall, get back up and get rid of those moments. I think so. If we want to change the world, we have to change people one person at a time. And even though you think in that treatment room, you're just changing one person, how they interact with their spouse, how they interact with their child, how they interact with their community, you're not just changing that person who feels good and without pain again, you're changing the world one person at a time. So in the last pearl of wisdom, never think you know it all. The bottom line is, I know instructors, they walk in and they think, this is all about my stuff. Well, first of all, it's probably not theirs. They're probably the cavemen did that before they're ever born. Somebody has done whatever I've done before I was ever around. I think it's all about what we can contribute to the outcome of manual medicine. It's all about how we can lift everybody up in this world, because the world has been broken, especially since 220. And I think kind words can go a long ways in healing, and encouragement can go a long ways in learning. And I think I've had to learn that through injuries and accidents and illnesses. But now I think just be careful of the thoughts you give energy to. Say kind words to yourself. So I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, I can do this, I got this. And then encourage every patient and every human being you interact with to think the same. So for my seminars around the world, and by the way, I'm doing retreats in Italy, I'm doing retreats all over the world, which means you go and you have fun and spend time together, and you bond and you connect. If you want to, I teach 45 seminars a year, and if you would like information, you can go to www.orthomassage.net. And my audience is pretty much everybody that does wellness and healthcare and manual therapy. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be at the table with this incredible interview with some amazing people. Really appreciate you watching this episode, and I hope it helps make a difference in your lives.